First Contact Protocol Admiral Kethfer stood motionless on the command deck of the Eternal Dominion, his 6 arms folded in the traditional pose of contemplation. Through the massive viewport, the third planet of this unremarkable system rotated. Slowly, its blue-white surface unmarked by the scars of interstellar civilization. The hegemony's intelligence reports had been thorough, as always. This species, they called themselves humans, had barely achieved faster-than-light travel within the last century. Their ships were primitive, their weapons laughably inadequate, and their military doctrine appeared to follow standard patterns, observed in dozens of other earlier space civilizations. It should be a routine conquest. Kethfer's fleet of 500 vessels represented the largest armada ever assembled by the stellar hegemony, though even a tenth of these ships would suffice for a species at humanity's technological level. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in satisfaction as he reviewed the battle plans. In his 3 centuries of military service, he had overseen the peaceful integration of 73 worlds into the hegemony. Each had followed the same pattern: initial resistance, demonstration of overwhelming force, surrender, and eventual gratitude for inclusion in galactic civilization. Communications Officer Zenthel, transmit the standard integration protocol to the planetary leadership, Kethfer commanded, his voice carrying the authority earned through decades of successful campaigns. The message that reached Earth was broadcast simultaneously to every government, military installation, and communication network on the planet. The alien who appeared on screens worldwide stood nearly 3 meters tall, with pale blue skin and multiple arms that moved in precise, ceremonial gestures. When he spoke, his words were translated into every human language with disturbing accuracy. "Am Admiral Kethfer of the stellar hegemony. Your species has reached a level of development that brings you to our attention. We offer membership in our collective, bringing with it access to technologies and knowledge beyond your current understanding. You have 72 standard hours to signal your acceptance. Failure to comply will result in systematic military action until compliance is achieved. This is not a threat, it is a promise of inevitable outcome. We await your wisdom in choosing cooperation over destruction." In the emergency session of Earth's hastily assembled Planetary Defense Council, Fleet Admiral Chen Wei reviewed the tactical displays with growing unease. Earth's entire space navy consisted of 85 vessels, most designed for exploration and system patrol rather than warfare, against 500 alien ships, each apparently larger and more advanced than humanity's most powerful battle cruisers. The mathematics were brutally simple. What do we know about their capabilities? Chen asked Dr. Alina Vasquez, Earth's leading expert in xenotechnology analysis. Based on electromagnetic signatures and gravitational displacement readings, each of their capital ships carries energy output equivalent to a small star. Vasquez reported, her face pale. Their propulsion systems suggest they can accelerate at rates that would crush any human crew, and their hulls show no obvious weaknesses to conventional weapons. Captain Maria Santos, commander of the Orbital Defense Fleet, leaned forward in her chair. "Admiral, I need to be honest. In a direct engagement, we'd be eliminated in minutes. Our plasma cannons might scratch their paint. Our missiles would probably be intercepted before reaching their targets." Colonel David Park, who commanded Earth's atmospheric fighter wings, nodded grimly. "My pilots are ready to die for Earth, but we need to be realistic about what we can accomplish. This isn't about bravery, it's about physics." Chen studied the alien fleet's formation through the long-range sensors. The ships maintained perfect spacing and alignment, a display of discipline that spoke to centuries of military tradition. Everything about their approach suggested overwhelming confidence, and why shouldn't they be confident? By any reasonable measure, humanity was about to be conquered by a technologically superior civilization with vastly greater resources. There's something else, Vasquez added quietly. I've been analyzing their communication protocols and ship movements. They're not just superior, they're predictable. Every maneuver follows classical military doctrine: formation flying, secure communications, supply line, organization. It's all very ... formal. The 72 hours passed with frantic preparation. Earth's fleet moved to defensive positions around the orbital stations and lunar bases. Ground-based missile batteries powered up, targeting systems locked onto the alien vessels that now filled the system. Military satellites were repositioned to provide maximum sensor coverage of the approaching enemy. When Admiral Kethva received humanity's response, he was mildly surprised by its brevity. Go to hell. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Such defiance was not uncommon in the early stages of integration. The humans would learn, as all species eventually did, that resistance to the hegemony was futile. He gave the order to begin standard conquest protocols. The first engagement lasted exactly 17 minutes. Captain Santos watched her instruments with growing horror as human weapons fire splashed harmlessly against alien energy shields. The enemy responded with precisely targeted plasma beams that sliced through human hulls like heated blades through tissue paper. The EU's defiance exploded in a silent fireball as Santos watched. The Courage lost all power and began tumbling. End over end, its crew undoubtedly dead. All ships fall back to secondary positions. Santos ordered, but she knew it was pointless. The aliens weren't even using their full firepower. This was clearly a demonstration, meant to discourage further resistance. Colonel Park's fighters fared even worse. The small, agile craft that had seemed so advanced compared to earlier human designs were swept from space by automated defense systems that tracked them with casual efficiency. Park himself barely escaped when his squadron was caught in a crossfire between 3 alien cruisers. On the ground, Dr. Vasquez watched the tactical displays with a mixture of terror and fascination. "Admiral," she said to Chen, "they're not trying to destroy us completely. Look at their targeting patterns. They're eliminating our military assets while leaving civilian infrastructure intact." Chen saw it too. The alien bombardment was precisely surgical, removing Earth's defensive capabilities without causing unnecessary destruction. It was the work of a civilization that had perfected the art of conquest through overwhelming technological superiority. After the first day of fighting, Earth's space fleet was reduced to fewer than 20 ships. The orbital defense platforms were gone. Most of the atmospheric fighters had been destroyed or damaged beyond repair. By any conventional measure, the war was over. But humanity didn't surrender. Instead, something unprecedented in Admiral Kethva's experience occurred. The surviving human ships scattered rather than grouping for a final, desperate stand. They disappeared into asteroid fields, behind planetary bodies, and into the outer system where they could avoid detection. Ground-based forces evacuated their fixed positions and dispersed into urban areas and difficult terrain. "Admiral," reported his intelligence officer, "the humans are not responding to our integration protocols. Their military forces have abandoned conventional positions, but they have not surrendered." Kethva studied the tactical displays with growing puzzlement. In his experience, species at this point either surrendered immediately or gathered there, remaining forces for a final, honorable battle. This dispersal ... was unprecedented in hegemony records. Perhaps they require a stronger demonstration, he mused. Begin surface operations. Deploy ground forces to secure major population centers. They will surrender when they see the futility of resistance. The hegemony's ground forces landed in perfect formation outside Earth's major cities. Their walking vehicles towered over human buildings like mechanical mountains, each one carrying enough firepower to level city blocks. The alien soldiers moved with precise discipline, following doctrine that had proven successful on dozens of worlds. But as they advanced into the urban areas, something went wrong. The humans were gone. Not dead, simply vanished. Buildings stood empty, streets were abandoned, and the massive alien war machines found themselves controlling empty shells of cities. Sensor sweeps detected human life signs, but they were scattered, hidden, moving, constantly through underground tunnels and abandoned structures. Then the attacks began. They were small, at-first explosions in supply convoys, damaged communication equipment, isolated patrols that simply disappeared. The hegemony forces responded by increasing security, following protocols that had worked on other worlds. But the attacks continued, growing more sophisticated and coordinated. Captain Santos, operating from a hidden base in the asteroid belt, led the scattered remnants of Earth's space fleet in hit-and-run attacks against alien supply ships. Her vessels would emerge from concealment, strike at isolated targets, then vanish before reinforcements could respond. "This is shadow base to all units," she transmitted on encrypted channels. "Remember, we're not trying to win conventional battles. We're trying to make them pay a price for every day they stay in our system." On Earth's surface, Colonel Park had organized the surviving pilots into small, mobile units that struck at alien installations using improvised weapons and captured equipment. His fighters no longer flew in formation. They operated individually, using their knowledge of Earth's terrain to avoid alien sensors. Dr. Vasquez had established a network of hidden laboratories where teams of scientists worked around the clock to analyze captured alien technology. Every piece of wreckage, every damaged component, was studied and reverse engineered. "We're learning," she reported to Admiral Chen during a clandestine meeting in an abandoned subway tunnel. "The technology is advanced, but it follows logical principles. More importantly, it's standardized. They use the same systems across their entire fleet. If we can find weaknesses, those weaknesses will apply to all their equipment." 3 months into the occupation, Admiral Kethfer found himself dealing with problems he had never encountered in 7 decades of military service. His ground forces controlled Earth's cities but not its population. His fleet dominated the space around Earth but couldn't eliminate the persistent raids on his supply lines. Most troubling of all, human resistance was growing stronger rather than weaker as time passed. For the first time in his career, Kethfer began to suspect that his understanding of warfare might be incomplete. Learning to fight 36 months. After the initial invasion, Admiral Kethfer stood in his command chamber, reviewing reports that would have been impossible to imagine at the beginning of this campaign. The humans had not only failed to surrender, they had somehow managed to turn their technological disadvantage into a strategic asset. "Admiral," his aide reported with barely concealed frustration, "the humans have destroyed another supply convoy. Near the 4th planet, our patrol ships arrived to find nothing but debris and no trace of the attacking vessels." Kethfer's mandibles clicked in irritation. The latest attack followed the same pattern as dozens of others. Swift, precise strikes against isolated targets, followed by complete disappearance of the attacking force. His ships were designed for fleet engagements against opponents who fought with honor and dignity, not these ghost-like raiders who struck from hiding and melted away before retaliation was possible. Increase the escort strength for all supply runs, he ordered. Deploy additional sensor drones throughout the system. But Kethfer knew these measures would only delay the inevitable next attack. The humans seemed to possess an uncanny ability to find weaknesses in hegemony defenses, exploiting gaps that shouldn't have existed in protocols, refined over millennia of successful campaigns. Captain Maria Santos crouched in the command center of her hidden asteroid base, studying holographic displays that showed the movement patterns of alien ships throughout the Sol system. Her remaining fleet consisted of only 12 vessels, but each had been extensively modified using salvaged alien technology. The next convoy will pass through Sector 7 Alpha in 18 hours, reported her intelligence officer, Lieutenant Commander Jackson Torres. 3 transport ships with 2 escort cruisers. Santos nodded, her finger tracing the projected route on the tactical display. We'll hit them here, just past the Mars orbital zone. The Ghost and Phantom will take the transports, while Wraith engages the escorts. Standard dispersal pattern afterward rendezvous at coordinates Omeganine. The modified human ships bore little resemblance to their original specifications. Dr. Vasquez's engineering teams had stripped away unnecessary systems and rebuilt them around captured alien power cores and weapons. They were smaller than hegemony vessels, but faster and far more maneuverable, designed specifically for the hit-and-run tactics that had become humanity's signature. The attack proceeded flawlessly. Santos's ships emerged from the asteroid field, with their new stealth systems masking their approach until the last moment. Hybrid human-alien plasma cannons tore through transport hulls while the escorts were too distant to provide effective cover. By the time hegemony reinforcements arrived, the human raiders had vanished into the maze of asteroids and debris that filled the outer system. On Earth's surface, the resistance had evolved into something that defied every principle of conventional warfare that Admiral Kethfer understood. Colonel David Park led a network of cells that operated in abandoned subway tunnels, empty buildings, and hidden bunkers scattered across multiple continents. The key is never giving them a target they can focus on, Park explained to his cell leaders during a clandestine meeting in the ruins of what had once been Chicago. They're used to fighting armies' organized forces with clear command structures and predictable tactics. We don't give them an army to fight. Park's forces had captured enough alien equipment to arm several battalions with modified plasma weapons. More importantly, they had learned to use Earth's diverse environments as force multipliers. Urban warfare in the maze-like ruins of bombed cities, guerrilla operations in dense forests, and ambush tactics in mountainous terrain. Each environment presented challenges that hegemony forces seemed unprepared to handle. Dr. Elena Vasquez had established an underground network of laboratories where humanity's brightest minds worked to decode alien technology. The breakthrough came when her team successfully activated a captured hegemony AI core, providing unprecedented insight into alien tactical doctrine. Their artificial intelligence systems are incredibly sophisticated, Vasquez reported during a secure transmission to Admiral Chen, but they're also rigidly programmed. They follow decision trees based on thousands of years of successful military campaigns. The problem is, none of those campaigns involved opponents who fought like we do. The AI core revealed something crucial. The hegemony's military doctrine was based on the assumption that all spacefaring civilizations would eventually develop similar tactical approaches: energy weapons, shields, organized fleets. Formal battle lines, these were considered universal constants of advanced warfare. Humanity had violated those constants by refusing to fight according to accepted rules. "We can use this," Vasquez continued. "Their systems are designed to counter specific types of attacks and movements. If we can present them with scenarios that don't exist in their programming, we can exploit gaps in their responses." The first major test of humanity's evolving tactics came when Admiral Kethver decided to end the resistance with overwhelming force. He gathered his entire fleet for a systematic bombardment of Earth's surface, intending to eliminate all possible hiding places for human forces. The attack began at dawn. Greenwich Mean Time. 500 alien ships moved into bombardment formation above Earth's major continents. Plasma beams lanced down from orbit, targeting known resistance bases, supply caches, and communication centers. But the humans were no longer where the hegemony expected them to be. Captain Santos led her fleet in a coordinated assault on the alien vessels while they were focused on surface bombardment, using gravitational slings around planetary bodies for acceleration. Her ships achieved velocities that allowed them to close range before alien sensors could track them effectively. Asterisk. The modified human vessels struck the hegemony fleet from multiple vectors simultaneously. Their hybrid weapon systems targeting specific vulnerabilities that Dr. Vasquez's teams had identified. For the first time in the war, alien ships began taking significant damage on the ground. Colonel Park's forces emerged from hidden positions with captured alien war machines that they had learned to operate. The massive walking vehicles, designed to intimidate human defenders, were turned against their creators in coordinated strikes against hegemony ground installations. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, the hegemony fleet had lost 18 ships destroyed and more than 40 damaged. Human losses were lighter, only 3 vessels and fewer than 200 ground troops. More importantly, Admiral Kethver faced something that had never occurred in any previous hegemony campaign: military defeat by a technologically inferior opponent in his private chambers aboard the Eternal Dominion. Kethver reviewed battle recordings with growing amazement. The humans had somehow coordinated attacks across multiple theaters simultaneously, using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare he had learned in 3 centuries of military service. They fought without honor, without formal battle lines, without respect for the established protocols that governed conflict between spacefaring civilizations. They used deception, ambush, and asymmetric warfare in ways that made his superior technology irrelevant. And yet, there was something elegant about their approach, something that suggested a deeper understanding of warfare's fundamental nature than the hegemony's formal doctrines provided. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving priority transmissions from 17 different sectors. Hegemony worlds are requesting immediate military assistance. They report unusual resistance activities." Kethver's blood went cold as he realized the implications. What kind of activities? Hit-and-run raids, disruption of supply lines, asymmetric tactics, civilian populations disappearing into hiding rather than accepting integration protocols. "Sir, they're reporting that local populations are fighting like humans." The truth struck Kethver like a physical blow. Somehow, word of humanity's tactics was spreading throughout the galaxy. Other species were learning to fight in ways that the hegemony's doctrine couldn't counter. Dr. Vasquez's underground Laboratories had been broadcasting their technical discoveries and tactical innovations to anyone willing to listen. The galaxy's oppressed populations were learning that technological superiority could be overcome through innovation, adaptability, and the willingness to abandon conventional thinking about warfare. As reports continued to arrive from across hegemony space, Admiral Kethver made a decision that would have been unthinkable at the beginning of this campaign. He opened a communication channel to Admiral Chen. "I wish to discuss terms," he said simply. The meeting took place aboard a neutral vessel in the asteroid belt, with representatives from both sides maintaining appropriate security protocols. Admiral Kethver looked across the conference table at the humans who had somehow managed to turn his overwhelming victory into a strategic disaster. "You have taught us something we did not know we needed to learn," he said, his multiple arms folded in a gesture of respect. "The hegemony's approach to warfare has served us for millennia, but it assumes that all opponents will fight according to established patterns. You have shown us that this assumption is ... incomplete." Admiral Chen nodded gravely. "We never wanted this war, Admiral. We fought because we had no choice. But we're willing to discuss a future that doesn't require continued bloodshed." "I have a proposal," Kethra said. "The hegemony faces resistance movements on dozens of world's movements that have learned from your example. We need advisors who understand this new form of warfare. In exchange for your knowledge and assistance in resolving these conflicts peacefully, we offer Earth's full membership in the hegemony as an equal partner, not a conquered territory." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "You want us to teach other species how to fight against you? We want you to teach us how to avoid the need for fighting altogether," Kethver replied. "Your tactics succeeded because they were based on understanding your opponent's limitations rather than simply overpowering them. This suggests an approach to conflict resolution that the hegemony has never explored." 6 months later, human advisors were working throughout hegemony space, helping to negotiate peaceful resolutions to conflicts that had previously seemed intractable. The galaxy was learning a new word: human warfare, a style of conflict that emphasized adaptation, innovation, and understanding one's opponent better than they understood themselves. Admiral Kethver, now working closely with human strategic advisors, often reflected on the irony of the situation. In trying to conquer humanity, the hegemony had instead learned that true victory lay not in overwhelming force, but in the kind of flexible thinking that could turn any disadvantage into an opportunity. The humans, it seemed, had always understood that the art of war was not about having the biggest weapons. It was about knowing when and how to use whatever weapons you had. And sometimes, the most effective weapon of all was the willingness to fight in ways your enemy never expected. Asterisk.